Hey, welcome back, or maybe you should welcome me back. I have not posted a video series in a long time, but I am ready to get going again. And you're looking right here at an SVG Identicon for 100 Visions guy. Yeah, that's me, yours truly, made by this wonderful API site called Dicebear. And one of my students had pointed this out. We were looking in our class for any kind of public, open, free-to-use API that doesn't require authentication. And among the many different ones, I came across Dicebear, and it got me going. There's a lot of great things we can do here. So you basically have to use it, you need a URL, and you need like a style name, and then you can choose the type of image you want to use. Right now, I'm going to use an SVG for my demonstration. So you might be wondering, all right, what are we going to do for this project? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a Python GUI, graphical user interface project called Icon Generator, and it's going to allow the user to generate an icon. It's going to give them some of the options that are available and make it a little easy to use where they don't have to come up with the links and things. They can just generate the image and then get a copy of it and then use it for themselves. Okay, so in order to do this, we're going to use some tools here, but let me show you kind of a little bit about this Dicebear because it's a lot of fun. Here is, I'm using the same seed, which is 100 Visions guy. So I just wanted to see what variations they have for me, and I love this one. This is a bot, spelled with 3 T's, bots. And here's one called Lorelei, also using me as a seed. Doesn't quite look like me. Hair's too long, doesn't have glasses. I usually don't pucker my lips, but there we go. This is the Identicon. You might recognize this on GitHub. If you create an account on GitHub and you don't give it an icon, it will generate one for you based on your username. How's that for fun? And then here's just a generic Lorelei. And then we have a Lorelei with a different seed. So you can give it different seeds, you can give it different image types and file types as well. So we're going to create an app that uses all of those in this tutorial. Now, to do it, I want to talk about the project tools that we're going to use. Number one, we're going to use PyQt6 and Python. So Python, PyQt6 creates some GUIs. And I wanted to make sure we would be able to display SVGs, and I found this great article. This will be for a little later on, and I'll show you how to do it. But for now, we're going to focus on the API. But some other tools that you're going to want is I'm going to be using Git. So if you don't have Git installed on your computer, you can use git-scm.com, get Git installed. We're going to use Visual Studio Code and some configurations. And I'm going to use this tool called Poetry, which will help me manage and create my project. So it's python-poetry.org. That's a great site for you to look and use. I'm going to expect you to know how to use these tools or pipenv. If you know how to install libraries, you should be fine. So let me just, without further ado, let's start coding this thing. So I'm going to find a folder where I'm going to use my project, and I'm going to put a project in my GitHub repos folder. This is on my computer here at school. And I'm going to go to GitHub. So go to GitHub. You're going to want an account on GitHub. You're going to want to sign in. You're going to want to create a new repository. So you can either click plus new repository, or if you see the green new button, just click it and go ahead and create a name. So I'm going to call mine Icon Generator, and there it goes. And we're just going to click create repository. Don't check anything else. And go ahead and click create repository. All right. So here's where we're going to use these commands in a moment, but we're going to wait till we have our project created first. So we're going to use a tool called Poetry to do that. So in order to do that, we're going to go to the folder, GitHub repos. I'm going to right click and use git bash. Now, what we want to do is open this folder using terminal, using PowerShell, or whatever tool you have that's like terminal. I'm going to use my Poetry command. To make sure you have Poetry installed, you can type poetry-V, and if it tells you the version, then you know you have Poetry and the rest of this will work. If it doesn't, you're going to have to go through and install it. This video is not about that. You're going to have to find that somewhere else. So Poetry is a great tool. I'm going to create a new project. So we type poetry new, icon dash, and I'm using the dash generator. So you want to come up with a name for your project. Icon dash generator is a good enough one for me. And it creates this package called icon generator. That's the name of my package. Here is the folder that it's inside. And just to prove it to you, we're going to type cd icon, and I'm just going to hit the tab key and hit enter. And I'm going to type ls so you can see the files that are in the folder. There's a README file, a folder called icon generator, a file called pyproject.toml or TOML, and a folder called test. So Poetry can create your folder structure, and it's a good, well-designed folder structure that has everything you need for it. From here, we're done. I'm just going to close GitHub. From here on out, I'm going to use VSCode for managing my project. In here, you can see I have my new folder. So I'm going to open it up, and now I'm going to open this folder. I'm going to copy the address in VSCode. So I've got VSCode open here, and I'm going to choose File, Open Folder, and I'm just going to click in the window, paste, hit enter. Lo and behold, I'm in the folder, so I'm going to select it. And if you can see the name of your project here, and a test folder, and a TOML file, and a README, you're good to go. Okay. I'm actually going to delete this, and you'll see why. Because Git already has a command to create the README, and it will have a little more information. So I'm just going to delete that, move to the recycle bin. All right, I will say another thing you want to do is create a workspace. So I'm going to choose File, Save Workspace As, and I'm just going to let it give the name, make sure I can see those two folders, and it's going to be the same name as the project, so I'm just going to click Save. And the beauty of this is, you see I've got these folders open. When I close it, I can come back and double click on the icon generator file, and I'll be right back in VS Code set up the way I left it. And that's what I really like. All right, so there's still a lot of configuration to do. I'm trying to go fast so that we have time to do the more interesting part, which is the coding. Okay, but before we do, you want to make sure you have a couple things ready. I want you to click on extensions and make sure that the Python extension is installed. So I'm just going to type Python, click enter, and it's the one that has the IntelliSense and Microsoft. You just click it, make sure you install it. Okay. All right, so I have it installed, so we're good on here. I'm going to go back to the Explorer. All right, and what I want to do now is run some Poetry commands and some Git. Let's start with Git, and let's get this folder connected. So we're just go ahead and click that window. I'll just click on one of these, and I'm going to choose Terminal, New Terminal. All right. Okay, on the new terminal, here's what you want to do. You're going to want to grab all of this code here. So I'm just going to click on here to copy it. I'm going to go to VS Code. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to paste. And then I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to type clear, because I want to clear out that window, because I really want to focus on some commands in terminal. Poetry is an important command. So I'm going to type poetry shell, and what this does is it's going to create what's called a virtual environment, so that I can install libraries. I'm going to need to install one to make internet connection. I'm going to need to install another one to create my PyQt6 file, and I may need more later. So for now, we're just going to have our poetry running. And from here, you're going to want to click on View Command Palette, and you want to choose Python Select Interpreter. If you haven't done that yet, you will probably have to type out Python and just type enough to get to seeing Python Select Interpreter. And what you want is you want the one that says poetry in blue. And it should have the name of your project. So I'm going to click on that. Great. So now you might be wondering what that was all about. Well, you'll see in a moment. What we're going to do is we're going to, before I do anything else, let's go ahead and commit our other files and get those loaded onto GitHub. Let's do one more though. In order to do this project, we're going to bring in a library called request. So I'm going to type poetry add requests, I'm going to hit enter and watch what happens when I do that. First of all, I want to scroll down here. I want you to look at this file here right below that line. I'm going to hit enter and you're going to see this gets changed. We added requests here and there's a new file called poetry lock. Don't worry about that for now. But we've just added requests and now we can use this to make a connection to that online API. Now we have our request on here, and then I'm going to do this one more time because we are going to use PyQt6. So I'm going to say poetry add PyQt6, hit enter, and now it's going to update PyQt6 and install any other libraries that we need to use PyQt6. You don't want to forget this step. If you don't do this now, you're going to try to use PyQt6 later and it's not going to work for you. Let's just get that in place. Okay. Now let's commit all these remaining files. If I click on this little icon here, it shows me every file that's been changed since the last commit. And there are a group of files. I like to go old school. So I'm just going to do all my git commands in the terminal. I'm going to drag this way up here. I'm going to clear it out, type clear. And I'm going to run those commands. I'm going to move this just a little more so you can see the commands all here. Git add star means add everything. That's the wildcard. And suddenly, all those files are now listed under staged changes. Stage is just choosing the files we want to commit. And let's commit those. Commit -m. I'm going to use this little thing here. Build : adding initial file folder setup. Enter. Bam. There we go. And notice how now the stage changes are all gone. I could click sync changes, or I can just push my file. So it's git push origin main. And I send my changes to GitHub. That all clears away. Let's go back here. Back to Explorer. And let's go to GitHub and hit refresh. If you did it right, you should see 2 commits and your project files in place, including the toml and the poetry lock. Let's get coding. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is let's start with seeing if we can use the request library to basically get the data from this file here. So I'm just going to click the link and I'm going to copy this here. Right click, copy. All right, we're going to use the request library for this, and I'm going to walk you through the code as we go. Any of your files that are doing the work of your app need to go into icon generator. So I'm going to click the folder, the one where you see icon underscore, not the other one. You should see in it. Leave that file alone. While you have this highlighted, just click new, and we're going to create a file called controller.py. This is going to be our Python file that will actually make all of our connection to the API. All right, I began with a doc string that has the file name, who wrote it, and a little brief description as to what it does. Okay, we're going to start with just standard code on here, and I'll walk you through what it's doing. Okay, first thing we want to do is we're going to import requests. And sometimes if you're going to use a request library, it might be nice to just call it as RE, and then RE will forever refer to requests. If I put RE dot, you can see post, patch, get, put, etc. Okay, we're going to take advantage of that in a moment. Okay, but we want to create a URL, and for now I'm just going to paste what I copied. So you can go either hand type that out, or you can go to the api.dicebear.com and look at their docs. And then we're going to just type response. We're going to get a response from our connection equals re.post. I'm going to just put in here URL. And then we're going to print response. Now, I'm not going to do anything else, but I'm going to put a little breakpoint in here because I want to show you how we can. I'm going to take it off of there and put a breakpoint here. I want you to see what happens. Let's just do each step here. I'm going to do the response, and then after the response, and we're going to run debug. So you just click to the left of the line number, get a red dot there, click on this little bug dude here and click run and debug, and you're going to use Python file. Okay, so we hit run and debug and it pauses here. So we created this response re.post, we sent it to URL. Let's take a look at what this response is. So we're just going to click in here, expand it, and we're just going to scroll down a little bit. I'm looking to see if it's okay. This says false, and we got a status code of 405. Let's see what the 405 status code is about. According to the MDN web docs, 405 is a method not allowed. So the method we're trying to use. I get the feeling that it might have to do with, yeah, I bet it has to do with post. Let's see what things we can do with RE. And I'm going to go over here. So look at RE, and I want to look at their function variables. There's get, there's get, post, and put. I think we need to use get. Let's just see if that solves it. So I'm just gonna, I wanna make a change. I don't have to stop this and make my change. I can make it right here. So I'm gonna change that to get. And you see that white dot up there? That means I have an unsaved change. I don't even need to save my changes. If I hit refresh, it saves it. And now it's get. I go to the next step, and let's take a look at the response. Let's see if we resolved it. It says okay is true. And now I'm just going to go ahead and run it, and it printed the response. Well, that's not good enough because there's more information, but it's good. I got a response of 200, and you can write code to check to make sure. So what I did here was to check to see if the response is okay, and that should be a Boolean. We'll double check on there. If it is okay, then we're going to print out the text of the response. I knew that because I typed response dot and I looked to see what was available and I saw there was text. So I'm going to print out the text of the response, and then if there is an error, it will tell us what the error code was. So let's go ahead and test that out. Using the debugger again, so I'm going to click run and debug. All right, and we have our response. And response, and let's take a look. Yeah, okay, it's Boolean. So now we can test for it just that way. If response.okay, print response.text, and let's make sure that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, so this is going to give me the SVG code. So I click over here, print it on the screen. When I did post, and I ran it, and by the way, I can just run it this way. I'm just going to run it this way and see what it says. There was an error 405. Okay, great. So now that gives me the information I need. There may be additional information, but that's all I really need at this point. And so I got my response text. Let's just do one last thing. I've created a web page called response just to test out what I get. And I'm just going to manually do that. So I created the file over here, response.html, and I just stuck it in the same folder here. Later on, I'm going to get rid of this, but I just want to test out kind of what we get while I'm sort of building this out. And I created this HTML file, saving it as .html, so it knows it's a web page. If I start typing out HT, I get this option here, HTML5. I click here, and we get the body. So I'm going to want to just paste that code we got when we ran it the last time. So let's go back to the controller. Let's change that back to get. And I'm just going to clear the terminal and run it one more time. And I'm just going to run it. And by the way, by running it, you save it. And there it is. We're looking for SVG. So we're here. And we go down to there. Control C. And I think that works. We're going to go over to the response, and I'm going to paste it here, and I'm going to save my changes. I got it right there. And let's see if we can view this. What I have installed is a default browser live server. I got a lot of different tools I can use. You can also just open this up in File Explorer. It's the easy way. You don't have to install an inspection in the inspector, and you just double click it, and let's see what we got. There it is. All right, we got our response. All right, great. We know this works. All right, it's time to commit our work and push our work to GitHub. And then I think we're done on today's tutorial. So I'm just going to do a quick commit, git add star, git commit -m, fixing controller to make successful connection. And by the way, this is a feature that I'm adding, and so I'm going to go ahead and mark that as the shorthand feature, and then hit enter. And now I'm going to push git push origin main. And that sends my changes to GitHub. Let's go take a look on GitHub icon generator. See what our latest commit is. I got 4 commits. Feature, fixing controller to make successful connection. Excellent. All right, we're good to go. Thank you for watching. On the next tutorial, we'll do some mapping out and planning how this is all going to work.